Hey everybody, it's Wes and Christy back with 180 Digital. Today we're going to be talking about another piece of content recently published in the not so distant past. In November of last year, Wes wrote a wonderful piece for us called Why Box Website Companies Deliver Poor Websites. As a company that predominantly creates what I think are really awesome websites. Was a really important topic, I think, to talk about. We get a lot of questions from clients about what we think of some of the different hosting sites and platforms, and whether or not what projects that people want to do will integrate with what they're wanting. And so we thought it'd be really good, or I guess Wes can explain why he wrote it, but I think one of the reasons I think we'd agree is that we do get a lot of questions about some of these websites, and we kind of wanted to share some of our experiences and why sometimes those are not the best route to take.
Yeah. It's one of those things. This is a question we get asked all the time. So we get a ton of people who are trying to migrate off of these platforms, and whether it's churches or other nonprofit organizations, they come to me and say, how do we get out of this? And the common problems that I see that they are dealing with, a lot of them, the first one that I wrote about in here was just kind of a lack of SEO tools. So they are getting better about integrating these sorts of things, but even still at kind of the fundamental level, being found through search, you really have to go through and optimize your website to be found for the things that people are searching for. And a lot of them don't offer any tools, but many of them don't. They offer some, but they're not quite as robust as what you can get through using WordPress or some other CMS platform. So people looking to get a better result on searches and things like that. The other one that I see, this is probably the biggest one that I get, is the lack of flexibility. So eventually they're going to hit a wall. Everyone who builds their website on there, they're going to hit a wall where there's something that they need to do that they can't do. And whether that's an integration with another platform, or whether that's a certain specific kind of functionality, or things like that, it eventually, though, they hit a wall. And so what happens is they get frustrated by that. They come and talk to us and decide, yeah, we need to kind of migrate away from using this platform. So, and if you know anything about WordPress is the most flexible content management system that exists out there. And part of that is because it's open source, so people can write plugins and can write code and change it to do a lot of things that it doesn't necessarily do out of the box, but enhance the features of that. And so it integrates with basically anything that you want to do, and it's extremely flexible to be used on small church websites, but also e-commerce sites, lots of things like that. And then the third thing I mentioned on here is a lack of ownership, because the reality is, if you build your website on there, you spend time, hours and hours building a website on there. You ultimately don't own that website. You may own the domain, but that ownership can't be transferred to someone else. You can't take your website off that platform and host it yourself. You're locked in with them. You are in a symbiotic relationship, for better or for worse, with that box website company. And again, like the same thing before, you're going to hit a wall where there's something you want to do that you can't do, and now you're kind of stuck there, and you have to start completely all over again to kind of get to the place that you want to be. And so, we answer these questions. We talked to a lot of churches about this who have started out with these platforms and ultimately make a decision, hey, we need to move away from this. So, but what are some of the questions that you've heard?
Well, I guess one thing I think would be really helpful for people to understand is, like, what are some of the features that are really difficult to expand once you have I think a lot of small companies or churches start out thinking, well, I really only need a few pages. And then to your point, okay, well, how are we going to get community on our website? Or how are we going to collect payment or giving?
Right.
Or how are we going to allow other people to be able to come in and do what they need to do on the website without literally handing over the entire thing? And so I think there's a lot of functionality that a lot of these sites don't accommodate for, that become really important, especially for churches. Can you think of anything off the top of your head?
Yeah, I mean, one of those things that I've seen oftentimes is there's an integration with an online giving platform, or They have a church management software. They want to embed forms from that church management software onto their website, and they can't do some of those sorts of things. But I think you definitely hit on something really important there, is that it's having a long-term view of what you're going to need with your website and investing in a platform that's going to grow with you versus one that's going to contain you, like in a box, which is
Mhm.
why we call those, box hosting companies, because eventually you're gonna need something that it's not going to be able to provide for you. And so have that long-term perspective and saying, I want to invest in a platform that's going to grow with my church, or excuse me, or with my organization, and be all that we need it to be for now and the foreseeable future.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
we're
one thing that recall hearing several times was, the leaders of the church don't necessarily have the time to keep going in here into the back end to invite people to groups and to manage the functionality in the back, or even update the website consistently. And so you have to hand off some of that to someone else. And so it needs to be able to function in a way that doesn't require a developer. And I think some of the box websites are a little complicated to use also if you want it to look nice. Otherwise, you're just getting like a template. And sometimes those templates are extremely restrictive. Like say you want to add, scrolling images, or you want to update your website. And I know we've seen that where somebody wants to add more video or add better imagery, and there's quite a restriction on the pixels that it'll allow or that it'll
Yeah.
host. And so there's some really functional restrictions that sometimes cause those websites to not even be able to look really nice, especially as technology has changed. They don't necessarily keep up.
Yeah, and I would add on to that to say one final thing here. We develop on WordPress because it's flexible. That's intentional on our part, but the other thing it enables us to do for those, we really view the relationships that we have with the clients as partnerships. And so we partner with them, and where if you have a box hosting company, you're dependent on their support, and their support could be good. There's most likely their support is not good, or it's overseas. The relationships that we have with our clients are, we're partnering with them, and we're easy to get a hold of, easy to make changes and come alongside them to update their website if they need us to, and make any changes to it. And we know, because we're using WordPress, we have the ability to do whatever needs to be done. And so yeah, so I know some churches start out with these companies, but ultimately kind of migrate away from them, and we're happy to help anyway. If you're stuck on a box hosting company website, and you're not sure exactly what to do next or how to get off of that, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you any way that we can. So
Yeah. Well, that kind of wraps up the meat, I think, of this post. I do encourage everybody to go read it fully, because there's some more detail in there on other things you can think about as you're planning a website in the future, or you feel stuck but you can't get out yet, and just be thinking about what are some of those flexibility and functional and SEO items that you might need, and maybe we can help point you in the right direction. So take a look at that blog post. You can find it on the 180.digital website under blogs. It was called Why Box Website Companies Deliver Poor Websites, back in November. So take a look at that, read it, and yeah, reach out to us and let us know if you have any questions, or if you're dealing with any of those things you haven't been able to avoid yet. So we're happy to walk alongside you.